Hey guys, Garage here, and we're going to be playing with this Pulsar generator some more. We're going to be covering today load on the generator. We want to see if it actually can produce the power that it claims it can produce on propane and on gasoline. So we're going to test that. We're going to do a sound level test. So at state parks and a lot of places, you have to have a very quiet generator. Most all inverter generators will fall into this category. But is this quiet enough to pass, say, state park regulation? State parks require you to have a generator that's no louder than 60 dB at 50-foot distance. And they'll actually test that and make you shut it off if you don't pass that, because you don't want to be pissing off the wildlife or the neighbors or, whatever. So we're going to test to see if this would pass a state park, because it's small and it's high performance on this engine. That's how they get more power out of this for its size. So does it actually pass? So that's going to be a big thing. We are also going to cover some basic modifications that I do to most all my machines. You'll see it on the channel. We're going to be doing a replacement, kind of a lifetime type spark plug. We're going to be putting an hour meter on this. We're going to put a magnetic dipstick in it. All of those things can be found in the video description if you'd like to purchase them for your generator. We're also going to cover some specifications. I did get specifications back for valve clearances or valve lash from Pulsar. They actually responded to me really, really quick. Not knowing I'm doing a video, but they responded like within less than 20 hours, which is really good for general customer service, just on an email. So I was pretty happy about that. Yeah, so that's mainly it. And then right before I go for this intro, one thing that's kind of a myth out there right now, I actually saw it in some Amazon reviews, was somebody was saying it's not a true sine wave or a pure sine wave generator. That's actually false. It is a pure sine wave generator. I actually did test it, threw it on my scope. It is a pure sine wave generator. It's not modified, but Pulsar, their marketing people did some really weird stuff with the wording. They call it a stable sine wave instead of a pure sine wave generator. That's going to throw some people off. I can see why it's confusing. What the hell is a stable sine wave generator? I guess, I don't know. Anyways, just weird. So, that's all I've got for now. Let's roll through all our tests and let's see how this thing does. Alright, so let's get on to the modifications on this generator. First thing we're going to do is spark plug. And technically you can get to the spark plug and wire. It's actually really the only way, unless you disassemble the case, right through this top little hole. Since we're going to be doing some other stuff, we're going to go ahead and take the side panel off. I already took the 2 Phillips screws out, so we can just take the side panel off like that. It's cake. Alright, so it's a little bit tight to get to the spark plug wire down here. So we get that in there, pull it out. Now I've got the wire out, so you kind of see it right here. I'm going to take a 5/8 spark plug socket. And it does come with the tool, by the way. I'm not going to use it just because I have this. Let's go ahead and get this guy out. There we go. And little tiny guy. You can see how small the threads are. It's like a 12.7 millimeter reach on this. Do you have a direct replacement? Well, let me rephrase that. It's a crossover replacement in iridium, and we're going to get rid of this kind of junk nickel tip plug. I'm just not a fan of these, although it will work fine for you. It will run your generator just fine. I always get rid of these nickel tip plugs though. I go to something that's going to last the life of the generator and will make it much easier to start if it ever gets wet fouled. And so the plug that I am using is an NGK iridium. See if I can get that to focus. Maybe, maybe not. Something like that. It's a fine wire electrode. Really good for firing fouled. This crossover plug does not come with the terminal nut, so you do need to buy that. Most likely, depending on the vendor, you'll have to buy a terminal nut. Unless you have some old spark plugs laying around, you can steal a terminal nut from. That's the end piece that I'm kind of tapping with my finger right there. It's usually just threaded when you get this plug. This is also a resistor plug, and the part number is a CR7HIX that fits this generator. This, again, is going to last the life of the generator. This is going to be a really good option for you. Check the video description. I've got links to the terminal nut, the spark plug, everything in the video description for everything I do on this generator. Buying from those links helps me, and then I in turn can help you, showing you stuff like this. Alright, so This is a gasketed plug, so you'll see the gasket here. So that means we're going to get it basically snugged up in the generator, and then we're going to do 1/2 turn, and that will seat this crush washer on this gasket. So let's kind of get that done. Always thread it in by hand first. Don't start going to town on it. Now that it's tight, we're going to take our wrench and we're going to do 1/2 turn. Alright. That covers the spark plug. We're going to put our plug wire back on. We're going to move on to our next modification. Quick and easy one, magnetic dipstick. There's a strong magnet right on the tip of this, and when we replace the factory dipstick, what happens is any magnetic material that's inside the engine case will stick to this magnet, and so it's just going to act kind of like a quasi filter, since these don't have an oil filter. No small generators do. This will help it last longer. So again, extremely inexpensive insurance to help this little engine go for the long haul. Now I'm going to tilt this back a little bit. I'm not sure if you can see it better. I'm also tilting it back because I slightly overfilled it, and that's why I have that paper towel in there, so I know oil could run out. We're going to get rid of this really long factory one that has no reason to be that long, because when you do fill it up, oil will generally come right up to the threads on the small engine. So let's go ahead and install our new one. That's it. Like I said, piece of cake. For this last modification, we're going to be doing an hour meter. Hour meters are important so you can keep track of your maintenance. Now this hour meter is a little like $10 one from Amazon. It just does hours. I usually keep these around. They work great on different equipment. This one's a little more bougie. This one is a Hardline products. It also has engine RPM, which is handy, especially if you're having a problem. You can see if maybe it's not idling up, or maybe the RPM has dropped, or maybe you have something going on over time. So I like to use this one with engine RPM. Check the video description for links. And I added some VHB tape to the back, some 3M VHB tape. This stuff is really, really sticky. We're going to be mounting this hour meter about, right there. And we're going to take a file. We're going to notch out the plastic right here and on the door. We're going to run our wire inside. And then, spin this guy around. I pulled the spark plug lead out. And we have to wrap this wire, because it's an inductive pickup for RPM to know the engine's running. We're going to wrap it around here. And then we're going to take a small zip tie. And we're going to secure that wire. That's how you install it. That's the whole installation. So let me get to it. And that was it for the quick and easy install on the hour meter and RPM. You can actually see on the coil wire, I've got the wire. I actually used a lot more wire than I really needed, but I wrapped it around a whole bunch of times around the line. You can see that right there. And that's it for the installation. This has been a really fun test. I've already been playing with it just to see what it can do, but I've got it on propane right now, and I can tell you straight up, this generator exceeds its ratings. It produces well over 3,000 watts continuous on propane. It's rated for 3,200 on gas. All right, so I've got 3 heat guns hooked up. 2 of them I've tested the draw at 1,500 watts each, and so when I flip those 2 on, it's going to be drawing 3,000 continuous. I've got another variable that's going to start out, it's around 200 watts. So anything you see on this meter, you just add 3,000 to it, and that's your total wattage. All right, so we're going to go ahead and flip the first heat gun on at 1,500 watts. You'll hear it ramp up. Okay, we're going to add the second heat gun, which is going to be drawing now 3,000 watts. Definitely gets pretty loud. Hopefully you can hear this. All right, now we're going to add in the third heat gun, and we're going to watch to see what it does above 3,000 watts on propane. Helps if it's that's 3,250 watts. We are not indicating overload. Generator sounds good. We're going to turn it up a little more. And you can hear it start to bog down. So about 3,300 watts on propane is about as far as I would want to take it. Now we're at 3,200 watts again exceeding its rating on propane. You can tell when it's starting to struggle, it starts dancing a little bit. You can kind of see it walking across the driveway. So this is a decibel reading at 50 feet at idle. So this passes with flying colors the 60 dB limit for state parks. This measurement is at half load on the generator, so it's running 1,500 watts. Notice it's just over 60 dB. Unless you get a really pissed off Ranger Rick, he's probably going to pass you, but man, at 50%, it is borderline. And this reading is a generator at 100% output. We are way over the 60 dB limit. You are not going to pass if you're fully loaded up on this generator. So just keep that in mind. It is quite loud for an inverter generator at full tilt. All right, so we really put this thing through its paces. This thing ran for an hour solid, doing a lot of torture tests. Our hour meter's working great. And we're going to do an oil change on it. So the magnetic dipsticks, because they're all metal, they do get really hot. So always wear a glove or use some paper towel so you don't burn yourself, because again, very, very hot. Let's see what's on the tip of this guy. Let's see. Whew, definitely got some buildup. So that's a little more than I expected, to be honest with you. But again, that was a hell of a torture test today. So that is a prime example of why you buy a magnetic dipstick. Always. For these little generators. Or any little small engine. You want to make absolutely sure that you're keeping heavy contaminants like that out of the generator. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off. And again, it doesn't surprise me. This is my generator, so I like I said, I beat the heck out of it. I was overloading it. We were running it right up to 100%, actually over 100% on propane. I mean, we were really, really pounding on this thing. So a little bit of metal, especially on being virtually new, doesn't surprise me. Now we're back to clean. Okay, the oil was hot. When oil is hot, oil expands. Oil expands, oil makes a mess, which is why paper towel is now soaked. So let me grab our funnel, which I actually, at first I hated the idea of this stupid funnel. I actually really like it now. It makes it convenient. So if we're not so hot that it melts the funnel, so again, I'm changing oil hot, which is my preference. Come on. Alright, so we're going to grab a container and see if the camera can capture this. We're going to just tip the generator, and my whole table is tipping. Let's tip it up on its side. Going to just pour the oil out. This little container should be just big enough to hold all of the oil. Much better than the first oil change. The first oil change was very black, very silver, very odd looking, and this pretty much what I expect. So let me get the camera on that a little bit better. That's what that looks like. Like I said, definitely better. I'll do a side-by-side shot here of the first oil change, what the oil looked like, and that. Okay. Now this is why I've come to like this little funnel. So now that I've dumped my oil, I already pre-filled this with a little over, a little under 15 ounces. All we're gonna do is put it back in. We're going to give it a little time so the oil kind of drains out of the funnel, so I don't make a mess there. And that was it for the oil change. It actually is really, really easy once you figure it out. The funnel is actually the right way to do it. I'd rather do that than a drain bolt, have it drain into the pan of the generator and into a bucket or something. That just made life really, really easy. So that's it for the oil change. All right, last tip of the day. So this generator being dual fuel, propane and gasoline, I'm almost never going to run this on gasoline unless there is a crazy emergency and that's all I can do, or I'm out of propane or something. So I don't want any fuel in my tank. I don't want any fuel in the carburetor because I don't want it to gum up over time. Now I do run Sta-Bil because all I have here in Phoenix area is crappy ethanol gas, and we can't get ethanol free down here unless I spend like $10 a gallon on race fuel. I'm not going to do that. So I use Sta-Bil, but in this case, again, I'm not ever going to use gasoline in this gen if I can help it. So I just want to drain the tank and I want to drain the carburetor bowl all together. So I flipped my switch over here onto run, and that actually is a fuel cutoff. So I put it on run so the fuel will flow into the carburetor itself. There's a little Phillips screw right next to this tube that's already in the carburetor. I just kind of pulled it out, put it in this gas tank, and we're just going to turn this little Phillips screw just a little bit. You see the air bubbles moving now. You can actually hear it running, and all the gas will drain out of the tank, just gravity. And then as soon as it drains out of the tank, it's actually going to drain out of the carburetor bowl. I already have some Sta-Bil in there too, so that'll coat itself on the inside of the carburetor bowl and keep things nice for if I ever do want to run it on gas. But I'm going to let that run. Who knows how long it's going to take. And that's pretty much it for a carb drain. At the very end here, I'm throwing in valve lash specs for what Pulsar provided me in case you guys ever need to do valve adjustment. I really appreciate you guys watching. I hope you like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. It helps out the channel, helps us grow. So I really appreciate you, and I hope this video helped you out. I will catch you later.